Rain hammered against the tall windows of Bellanova's, the kind of expensive Italian restaurant where reservations required 3 weeks' notice and a credit card that didn't flinch. Tonight, though, the dining room sat empty except for one man at the corner table, his back to the wall, eyes on every entrance. Vincent Castellano cut his veal with surgical precision. 47 years old, silver threading through dark hair, wearing a charcoal suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. The staff moved like ghosts around him, silent, efficient, terrified. The sommelier had poured his wine and vanished. The chef had personally prepared each course and retreated to the kitchen. Even the hostess stood by the door like a statue, praying no unsuspecting customer would try to enter. The reservation book simply read, Private 5C. Everyone in this part of the city knew what those initials meant. Vincent ate alone because he always ate alone now. 4 years since the funeral. 4 years since he'd watched them lower Sarah's casket into frozen ground while snow fell like accusations. 4 years since he'd admitted to himself that the empire he'd built, the respect he commanded, the fear his name inspired, none of it could fill the chair across from him. The fork touched his lips. The wine warmed his throat. The rain continued its assault on the windows. He wondered, not for the first time, what the point was. Power without purpose. Control without connection. He'd eliminated his enemies, consolidated his territory, built an organization that ran like clockwork. And for what? To eat perfectly prepared veal in an empty restaurant while the world cowered outside? Sarah used to say he thought too much. "You're in your head again, Vince," she'd tease, reaching across whatever table they shared to tap his forehead. "Come back to me." No one called him Vince anymore. A commotion at the door pulled him from his thoughts. The hostess's voice, sharp with panic. "No, I'm sorry, we're closed for a private event. Please, we'll just stand by the entrance. My son is... Ma'am, I can't." Vincent set down his fork, the small click audible in the silent room. The hostess froze. The voices stopped. He didn't turn around, but he raised one hand, 2 fingers extended. The universal signal, "Bring them to me." Claire Bennett had been in America for 9 months, and every single day had been harder than the one before. She'd left Boston with dreams painted in her son's watercolors. Safety, opportunity, a childhood without fear. Instead, she'd found a studio apartment with mold in the corners, a job cleaning offices at night that paid barely enough to survive, and a landlord who'd just changed the locks while she was at work. "Mom, I'm cold." Oliver pressed against her leg, his small body shivering under her thin jacket. She'd draped it over both of them, but 7-year-old boys didn't understand that mothers never really felt warm anymore. "I know, sweetheart. We'll find somewhere." But where? The shelter was full. Her sister wouldn't return her calls. She had $38 in her wallet and $12 in the bank account she checked on her phone every hour like it might magically multiply. The rain had started an hour ago, turning from drizzle to downpour. They'd been walking, looking for an awning, an unlocked church, anything. Oliver had stopped crying about 20 minutes ago, which was worse. When children stopped complaining, it meant they'd given up hope that complaining would help. Then she saw it. Golden light spilling onto wet pavement, the elegant script of Bellanova's on the window, and through the glass, tables with white cloths and actual food. "Mom, look, someone's eating." Claire's stomach clenched. They'd shared a granola bar for lunch. That was 8 hours ago. "We can't go in there, Oliver. It's too expensive. But it's warm and dry." His voice cracked. "And I'm really, really hungry, Mom." She looked at her son, hair plastered to his forehead, sneakers with holes that let in water, jeans too short because 7-year-olds kept growing even when money didn't. His eyes, so much like his father's before his father decided that being a husband and parent was too hard and simply left. Claire made a decision. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it was the way her son looked at that warm restaurant like it was heaven. She pushed open the door. The hostess blocked their path immediately. "I'm sorry, we're closed. Please." Claire's voice came out steadier than she felt. "We don't need to eat. Just, could we stand here? Just for a few minutes? My son is..." "Ma'am, this is a private reservation. You need to leave. Rachel." A man's voice, quiet but absolute. "Bring them here." Claire felt her heart stop. The voice came from the only occupied table in the entire restaurant, where a man sat in expensive clothes, watching them with eyes that had seen too much. Everything about him radiated danger, the way he held his wine glass, the scar along his jaw, the complete stillness of someone who never had to hurry because everyone else waited for him. Mr. Castellano, I don't think. I didn't ask what you think. His eyes never left Claire. The boy will eat like a guest. The hostess's face went pale. Of course. Right away, sir. Claire wanted to run. Every instinct screamed that this man was dangerous, that she should grab Oliver and flee into the rain. But Oliver's hand tightened in hers, and she felt his exhaustion, his hunger, his 7-year-old trust that his mother would keep him safe. Thank you, she whispered. Vincent gestured to a table near his, but not too close. Personal space, dignity, sit. A waiter appeared from nowhere with menus, but Vincent waved them away. Bring the boy pasta carbonara. And soup first. The lady will have the same. He paused. And hot chocolate. Good hot chocolate, Gregory. Not the instant garbage. Yes, sir. Right away. Claire sat, helping Oliver out of his wet jacket. She tried not to look at the man across the room, but her eyes betrayed her. He was watching them with an expression she couldn't read. Not quite curiosity, not quite pity. Something older. Something that looked like pain. The soup arrived in bowls so white they seemed to glow. Oliver stared at it like it might disappear. Eat, Vincent said, not looking up from his own plate. Before it gets cold. Oliver looked at his mother. Claire nodded. Her son picked up the spoon with both hands and began to eat. And Claire felt tears burn her eyes because when had eating become something precious, something to be grateful for, something that required a stranger's permission? Where is your husband? Vincent's question cut through the quiet clinking of spoons. Claire's hand stilled. Gone. Gone where? I don't know. He left 7 months ago. Said he needed space. Never came back. She forced herself to meet the man's eyes. I'm sorry. I don't want to bother you with... You're not bothering me, I asked. He took a sip of wine. What's the boy's name? Oliver. Strong name. Vincent's eyes shifted to the child, who was eating with the focused intensity of the truly hungry. How old? 7. Vincent nodded slowly, and Claire saw something flicker across his face. A wound, old but still bleeding. A good age. The pasta arrived. Oliver's eyes went wide. Real bacon, real egg, real cheese. Claire's own plate blurred as tears finally escaped. Don't cry. Vincent's voice wasn't unkind, just factual. No one should cry over food. Just eat. So she did. They both did. And across the room, Vincent Castellano returned to his own meal. But Claire noticed that his eyes kept drifting to Oliver, watching the boy eat with an intensity that had nothing to do with hunger. The rain showed no signs of stopping. Claire had lost track of time between the soup, the pasta, the tiramisu that appeared without being ordered. Oliver's head drooped against her shoulder, belly full, finally warm, drifting toward sleep. She needed to go. They'd imposed enough on this stranger's generosity, dangerous or not. She reached for her jacket. Don't. Claire froze. Vincent stood now, closer than before, hands in his pockets. Not threatening, but immovable. It's not safe out there tonight. We've managed this long. I didn't ask if you've managed. I said it's not safe. His eyes held hers. There are things happening in this neighborhood tonight. Things you don't want to be near. What kind of things? The kind that don't care if a woman and child get caught in the crossfire. He gestured to the back of the restaurant. There's a room upstairs. Clean sheets. Locked door. You'll stay there until morning. I can't. Yes, you can. His voice softened, just slightly. Look at your son. Claire did. Oliver had fallen asleep against her. Mouth slightly open. A small spot of chocolate on his chin. So young. So trusting. So completely unaware that his mother had no idea what to do next. I don't even know you, she whispered. No, you don't. Vincent pulled out a clean napkin, approaching slowly like she was a spooked animal. He handed it to her. For the boy's face. Claire took it, wiping Oliver's chin with shaking hands. The napkin was heavy linen, embroidered with a small bee for Bellanovas. Such a small gesture. Such an enormous kindness. Why are you doing this? She asked. Vincent didn't answer immediately. He looked at Oliver, at the sleeping child in his mother's arms, and something ancient and wounded moved behind his eyes. Because someone once told me that no one deserves to be hungry, or cold, or afraid. He turned toward the stairs. Follow me. I'll show you the room. The room upstairs was simple but clean. A double bed with thick blankets, a bathroom with towels that felt like clouds, a lock on the inside of the door. Vincent stood at the threshold, not entering. "Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me. I'll knock 4 times, pause, then twice more. You understand?" Claire nodded, Oliver heavy in her arms. "Good." He started to leave, then paused. "What's your name?" "Claire." "Claire." He tested the word. "Sleep, Claire. Morning will come, and things will be clearer then." But before he could leave, Oliver stirred, his sleepy voice mumbling, "Thank you, mister." Vincent froze. Slowly, he turned back, and Claire saw his face crack just for a second, just enough to see the human underneath the armor. "You're welcome, Oliver." His voice was rough. "Sweet dreams." After he left, Claire locked the door and held her son close, listening to the rain, wondering what kind of man could be so gentle and so dangerous at the same time. Downstairs, Vincent sat alone at his table again, but this time his hands were shaking. On the white tablecloth sat a small toy dinosaur, plastic and cheap, that had fallen from Oliver's pocket. He picked it up, turning it over in his scarred hands, and for the first time in 4 years, Vincent Castellano allowed himself to remember his son's laugh. The morning came too fast and too slow. Claire woke to unfamiliar softness, momentarily panicked before remembering. The restaurant, the stranger, the room. Oliver slept on, his breathing even and peaceful in a way she hadn't heard in months. She moved to the window. Early light painted the street in gray and gold. The rain had stopped, leaving puddles that reflected the sky. Down below, she saw men in dark suits talking in tight clusters, their body language tense, alert. One of them glanced up. Claire stepped back from the window. 4 knocks. A pause. 2 more. She opened the door to find Vincent, looking like he hadn't slept. He held a tray with breakfast eggs, toast, orange juice, coffee. "You need to eat before you go." "Go where?" The question escaped before Claire could stop it. Vincent set the tray down. "I've arranged something. A place. Not much, but it's clean, it's safe, and the rent is paid for 3 months. There's a school nearby for Oliver. The application is already filled out." Claire felt the room tilt. "I can't accept that. I can't. How would I ever—" "You don't owe me anything." His voice was firm. "Except one thing." The boy's smile. "Don't take that away from him because of pride or fear or whatever you're feeling right now." "Why are you doing this?" Claire's voice broke. "Who are you?" "Someone who knows what it's like to fail the people you love." Vincent moved to the door. "Get dressed. Eat. Someone will drive you at 9. Wait." Claire caught his arm, then immediately released it, shocked at her own boldness. Are you in trouble?" "Those men outside? Those men work for me." Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. "But yes, Claire, I'm always in trouble. It's the nature of my business." "What business?" He studied her for a long moment. "The kind that keeps people afraid. The kind that solves problems other people can't solve. The kind that your son should never, ever be near." He glanced at Oliver, still sleeping. "Which is why you're leaving." But fate, as it often does, had other plans. At 8:52 a.m., while Claire was helping Oliver button his shirt, while Vincent was downstairs discussing security with his lieutenants, a man named Derek Walsh made a decision that would change everything. Derek had been Vincent's second in command for 8 years. He'd been patient, competent, loyal. He'd also been waiting for Vincent to show weakness, waiting for an opening, waiting for proof that the boss had gone soft. A woman and child spending the night, the boss personally ensuring their safety. Vincent Castellano, the man who once burned down an entire warehouse with his enemies inside, was now playing guardian angel to some random mother? That was weakness. That was opportunity. Derek made 3 phone calls. By 9 a.m., 9 of Vincent's own men had switched sides. By 9:15, they'd surrounded Bellanova's. By 9:20, Claire heard the first gunshot and threw herself over Oliver, screaming his name. Downstairs, Vincent's instincts saved his life. He'd been reaching for coffee when he saw Derek's reflection in the chrome espresso machine, saw the gun rising, and dove left. The bullet that would have killed him punched through a vintage Italian landscape painting instead. Then chaos. Gunfire erupted from 3 directions. Vincent's loyal men returned fire, but they were outnumbered. Glass shattered. Wood splintered. Someone was screaming instructions. Vincent fought his way toward the stairs, toward the room, toward the woman and child who'd spent the night under his protection. He'd failed to protect his own family once. He would not fail again. He burst through the door to find Claire backed into the corner, Oliver crying, both of them terrified but unharmed. The window behind them exploded inward. "Down!" Vincent threw himself over them as glass rained around them. Return fire from his men drove the attackers back, but he knew the way you know when you've played this game too long that this was just the opening move. Derek wanted him dead. Derek wanted everything. And Derek now knew about Claire and Oliver, which meant they were leverage, which meant they were targets. Vincent looked into Claire's terrified eyes and saw his own failure reflected there. He'd tried to help. He'd tried to do one good thing, and instead he'd painted targets on their backs. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it with every broken piece of his soul. "I'm so sorry." The shooting stopped as suddenly as it started. An uneasy silence fell over Bellanova's, broken only by car alarms and distant sirens. Vincent's men had fought off the immediate attack, but everyone knew this was far from over. Vincent pulled back from Claire and Oliver, checking them for injuries. "You're not hurt?" Oliver was crying, clutching his mother. Claire's hands shook, but her voice came out steady. "We're okay. What's happening?" Someone decided I've lived long enough. Vincent stood, broken glass crunching under his shoes. "And they saw you with me, which means you're now part of this, whether you want to be or not." "Oh, God." Claire's face went white. "Oliver, we'll be fine." Vincent's voice carried absolute certainty. "I give you my word. Both of you will walk away from this alive." "Your word?" Claire almost laughed, hysterical. "Yesterday I didn't know you existed. Now people are shooting at us because of you, and I'm supposed to trust your word?" "Yes." Vincent met her eyes. "Because I failed to save my own son 4 years ago, and I have spent every day since then trying to earn the right to look at myself in the mirror. This is how I earn it today." The confession hung in the air between them. Claire saw the truth in his eyes, the grief, the guilt, the desperate need for redemption that drove some men to destruction and others to unexpected grace. "How old was he?" she asked quietly. 8. His name was Michael. Oliver lifted his head from his mother's shoulder, eyes red from crying. "My best friend at school is named Michael." Vincent knelt slowly, bringing himself to the boy's eye level. "Michael is a good name, strong name." He held out his hand. "My name is Vincent, but my wife used to call me Vince." "I'm Oliver," the boy said, taking the offered hand with surprising steadiness. "I know." Vincent shook the small hand with exaggerated seriousness. "You're the boy with excellent taste in pasta carbonara." Despite everything, Oliver smiled. Just a little, just enough. Claire watched this exchange with tears streaming down her face. This man, this dangerous, broken man, was trying to comfort her son in the middle of a war zone. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now, I get you somewhere actually safe. Not here. Not the apartment I arranged. Derek will know about that." Vincent pulled out his phone. "I have a place. Off the grid. No one knows about it except me." "Why do you have a place no one knows about?" "Because in my line of work, you always need an exit strategy." He was texting rapidly, his thumbs moving with surprising speed. "There's a car coming. Private driver. Not one of my men. He'll take you to a house 3 hours from here. There's food, clothes, everything you need. You'll stay there until this is finished." "And you?" Claire found herself asking, found herself caring. Vincent's smile was sad. "I'll finish this, one way or another." The next 4 days were the strangest of Claire's life. The safe house was actually a cottage near a lake, beautiful, isolated, stocked with more groceries than they could eat in a month. Oliver slowly relaxed, the resilience of childhood reasserting itself. He drew pictures with the art supplies he found in a closet. He caught frogs by the water. He asked about Vincent twice, but seemed satisfied with his working as an answer. Claire couldn't relax. She checked her phone obsessively, but there were no calls, no texts, no news. She watched the evening reports for any mention of gang violence, shootings, bodies found. Nothing. On the 4th night, Oliver woke up crying. "I had a bad dream." Claire held him, rocking slowly. "It's okay, sweetheart. We're safe here." "Is Mr. Vince coming back?" The question surprised her. "I don't know, baby." "Why?" "Because he was sad. I could see it in his eyes, like he needed a friend." Claire kissed her son's forehead, marveling at children's ability to see the truth adults tried to hide. "Yes, honey. I think he was very sad. We should make him a thank you card. For the pasta." So they did. Oliver drew a picture of 3 stick figures around a table, him, his mother, and a taller figure he labeled Mr. Vince. Claire added, "Thank you for the kindness we'll never forget." On the 5th morning, Vincent arrived. He looked terrible, bruised, exhausted, favoring his left side. But he was alive. He was standing. And when he saw them on the cottage porch, something in his rigid posture softened. "It's done," he said simply. "Derek won't bother anyone again. Neither will the others." Claire didn't ask what done meant. She'd learned in 5 days that some questions were better left unasked. Oliver ran to him, holding out the card. "We made this for you." Vincent took it with hands that still bore scabbed knuckles. He stared at the drawing for a long time, this man who commanded fear and respect, undone by a child's crayon masterpiece. "Thank you, Oliver," he said, his voice rough. This is the best gift anyone's given me in a very long time. You can keep it forever," Oliver announced solemnly, "because you gave us pasta and kept us safe." "I did." Vincent folded the card carefully, tucking it into his jacket pocket. "And now I'm going to do something else. Something I should have done the day I met you." He turned to Claire. "The apartment I mentioned, it's still yours. But there's more. I've also arranged a job. Nothing glamorous administrative work at a community center downtown. But it pays well, it's stable, and it's completely legitimate. No connection to me or my business." He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "First month's salary in advance. Considerate payment for the most honest meal I've had in years." Claire's hands trembled as she took the envelope. "Why are you doing this?" Vincent looked at Oliver, at the boy who'd somehow cracked open 4 years of sealed grief, then back at Claire. "Because someone once told me that no one deserves to be hungry. And because your son reminded me what it feels like to be human. I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything." Vincent started toward his car, then paused. "But Claire, if you ever need anything at all, there's a number in that envelope. Don't hesitate to use it." "Will we see you again?" Oliver asked. Vincent smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. "Maybe. If your mother allows it." He drove away, leaving Claire standing on the cottage porch with her son, an envelope full of money she didn't ask for, and the strange, bewildering feeling that she'd just witnessed a miracle disguised as a crime lord's penance. 4 weeks later, Claire stood in front of the bathroom mirror in their new apartment, trying to convince herself this was real. A working refrigerator. Heat that actually worked. Windows without cracks. Oliver had his own room with an actual bed, not a mattress on the floor. She'd started the job at the community center. Her supervisor, a kind woman named Margaret, never asked questions about the reference letter that had gotten Claire hired, a letter so glowing it bordered on suspicious. But the work was good, real. She helped families navigate social services, organized activities for kids, filed paperwork, normal work, legal work, and yet she couldn't stop thinking about him. Vincent Castellano, the man who'd terrified her and saved her in equal measure. She'd looked him up online after that first night, of course she had. What she'd found was terrifying. Photos from crime scene investigations, newspaper articles with terms like organized crime and suspected involvement, and no charges filed. A Wikipedia page that read like a crime novel. But that wasn't the man she'd met. Or maybe it was, and she was a fool for not running farther, faster. The knock came on a Wednesday evening while she was helping Oliver with his homework. 4 knocks. A pause. 2 more. Her heart stopped. She opened the door to find Vincent on the landing, dressed simply in jeans and a dark sweater, looking more tired than threatening. He held a bag from a bookstore. "I'm sorry to come unannounced," he said. "But Oliver mentioned he liked space, and I happened to see these." He pulled out 2 books, beautifully illustrated encyclopedias of astronomy and the solar system. The expensive kind, hardcover with gold embossing. "You didn't have to." "I know." Vincent's eyes met hers. "But I wanted to, if that's okay." Oliver appeared at Claire's hip, eyes going wide at the books. "Wow, are those for me? If your mother says it's all right, Claire should say no. Should maintain boundaries. Should protect her son from this man's complicated, dangerous world." But she saw Vincent's face, the hopeful, almost boyish expression, the way his hands held those books like offerings, and she remembered. He lost his son. "It's all right," she heard herself say. "Would you like to come in?" Vincent entered their small apartment like he was walking into a cathedral, carefully, respectfully, aware he didn't quite belong. Oliver immediately dragged him to the small table. opening the books with reverent hands. Claire made coffee instant, not the expensive stuff he was probably used to, and watched as Vincent pointed to different planets, reading the descriptions in a voice that suggested he'd done this before, with another child, in another lifetime. "My son loved these too," Vincent said quietly, when Oliver ran to get his own drawings of rockets. "Michael, he wanted to be an astronaut when he grew up." "What happened?" Claire asked, then immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry, you don't have to." "No, it's okay." Vincent stared into his coffee. "It was my fault. Not directly, I didn't pull the trigger. But my choices, my business, my enemies, they took him from me. A bomb, meant for me. But Michael was in my car that day. He wanted to come to work with me. Thought it would be exciting to see his dad's office." The silence stretched, heavy with grief. "Sarah, my wife, she forgave me. Can you imagine? Her son was dead because of my choices, and she forgave me." Vincent's voice cracked. "She died a year later. Cancer. But I think it was really a broken heart." Claire reached across the table, her hand covering his before she could think better of it. "I'm sorry. I've tried to do better, make different choices. But you can't wash blood off your hands by helping people, Claire. I know that. The math doesn't work that way." He looked at her, eyes red. "But when I saw you and Oliver that night, in the rain, and he was so hungry, I couldn't walk away. I couldn't be that person again." Oliver returned with his drawings, and the moment passed. But something had shifted. Claire saw Vincent differently now, not just as the dangerous man or the mysterious benefactor, but as someone carrying the same weight she carried. The fear of failing your child, of not being enough, of the world being crueler than any parent should have to explain. Over the next 4 months, Vincent became a strange but steady presence in their lives. He never overstayed. He never showed up without calling first. But he came bringing books, or art supplies, or sometimes just his company. He taught Oliver chess. He fixed their leaking faucet. He sat with Claire over coffee, and listened to her talk about her day, about the families at the center, about her worries and hopes. He never talked about his work. That part of his life remained locked away. But sometimes, Claire saw the weight of it in his eyes, the phone calls he took in another room, the days he looked more worn than usual, the careful way he checked the street before leaving their building. One evening, while Oliver was drawing at the table, Vincent pulled something from his wallet, a small, worn photograph of a boy with his father's eyes and his mother's smile. "That's Michael," he said, showing it to Claire. "He'd be 12 now." Claire looked at the photo, at the joy captured in that frozen moment, and felt tears sting her eyes. He was beautiful. He was everything. Vincent carefully returned the photo to his wallet, next to Oliver's thank you card, which he'd laminated to preserve it. "Sarah used to say I thought too much, got too lost in my own head. She'd pull me back, make me present, make me human. You're still human, Vincent." "Am I?" He looked at his scarred hands. "Some days I'm not sure. Oliver is sure. He asks about you when you don't visit." Claire took a breath, venturing into dangerous territory. "He thinks you're lonely. He's a perceptive kid. He's right, isn't he?" Vincent's silence was answer enough. That night, after he left, Claire found herself at her computer, searching not for crime reports but for something else, Michael's Light Foundation. It appeared in the search results a recently established nonprofit that provided free meals and educational support to struggling families in the city. The founder was listed as anonymous. The funding source, private donor. She checked the address. The main location was 4 blocks from Bellanova's. Claire closed her laptop, her heart full of questions she wasn't sure she wanted answered, because maybe some mysteries were better left unsolved. Maybe some people were too complicated to fit into neat categories of good or bad. Maybe redemption looked different than she'd imagined. Or maybe she was falling for a man who lived in the shadows, and that was the most dangerous thing of all. Number, Part 8. Betrayal and Sacrifice. The call came at 2:43 a.m., shattering Claire's uneasy sleep. Vincent's voice, tight with control. "Don't panic, but you need to listen carefully." Claire was instantly awake, her mother's instinct screaming danger. "What's wrong?" Derek had a partner. Turns out he's been planning something for months. Very patient, very thorough. Vincent's voice sounded like he was moving. Fast. He just made his move. "My security team is down. He knows about you and Oliver. He's coming." Oh God, Claire was already moving. grabbing Oliver from his bed. Her son woke confused, frightened by his mother's panic. "Listen to me. Go to the roof. There's a fire escape on the north side. Take it down to the alley. A black car will be there. License plate JMW 8352. The driver's name is Robert. He works for me. Trust no one else. Vincent. I'm coming, Claire. I promise I'm coming. But I need you to run first. Do you understand?" "Yes." "Good. Now go." Claire ran, Oliver in her arms, her son's sleepy confusion turning to terror as footsteps pounded up the stairwell behind them. She hit the roof access, cold air shocking her awake, ran for the fire escape, and stopped. A man stood blocking her path. Not Vincent's build, younger, with cold eyes and a gun in his hand. "Going somewhere?" Nathan Blake smiled, the expression cold as winter. "Vincent Castellano tried to destroy my operation. That's not something I can forgive." "Please," Claire begged, setting Oliver down, pushing him behind her. "We're nobody. Just let us go. This isn't about us." "But it is." Nathan stepped closer. "You're the first thing that bastard has cared about in 4 years. You're how I hurt him. You're how I make him feel what Derek felt." Oliver whimpered behind her. Claire spread her arms wider, making herself a bigger shield. "Then take me. Let my son go. He's 7 years old. He's done nothing to you." Your son Nathan's eyes narrowed, something calculating moving across his face. "You know what? Vincent's kid was 8. Close enough. Yeah, I think the boy comes too." "No!" Claire screamed, but Nathan was already moving, grabbing for Oliver. The shot came from the roof access door. Nathan stumbled, looking down at the red bloom spreading across his shoulder. Behind him, Vincent emerged, gun steady, eyes like death itself. "Touch them," Vincent said quietly, "and the next one goes through your skull." "You're too late, old man." Nathan laughed despite the blood. "My men are already downstairs, already moving. You can't save them all. Watch me." What happened next moved too fast for Claire to process. Vincent fired twice more precision shots that hit Nathan in the leg, the other shoulder, dropping him without killing him. Then Vincent was moving, grabbing Claire and Oliver, hauling them toward the fire escape. "Go, now." They ran. Down metal stairs that rang with their footsteps, Oliver crying, Claire's breath ragged with terror. Behind them, shouts, more gunfire, the sound of violence that should never touch a child's world. They hit the alley. The black car was there, door already open. Robert, a grizzled man in his 60s, shouted, "Get in!" Claire threw Oliver into the back seat, dove in after him. "Where's Vincent? He's buying you time. Now shut up and stay down." The car peeled out just as men burst from the building. Bullets sparked off metal. Robert drove like he was racing hell itself, weaving through early morning streets, taking corners that made Claire's stomach lurch. "Where are we going?" "Safe house. Different one. Nobody knows about it. Not even most of Vincent's people." "Is he?" Claire couldn't finish the question. Robert met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "If anyone can survive this, it's him. He's got a lot to live for now." They drove for 90 minutes, ending at a small house in a neighborhood that looked suburban and safe. Robert led them inside, checked every room, then positioned himself by the front window with a gun Claire tried not to look at. "Now we wait." Dawn came slowly. Oliver fell back asleep, exhausted by terror. Claire couldn't close her eyes. She watched the street, jumped at every car, every sound, every shadow. At 8:17 a.m., a car pulled up. Not Vincent's usual sleek vehicle, but a battered sedan that looked stolen. The door opened. Vincent climbed out, moving stiffly, one arm cradled against his chest. Blood stained his shirt, but he was walking. He was alive. Claire met him at the door. He looked at her, at Oliver asleep on the couch, and something in his iron control finally cracked. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "God, Claire, I'm so sorry. I tried to keep you safe." And instead, she did the only thing that made sense. She wrapped her arms around him carefully, mindful of his injuries. "You came. You saved us. I put you in danger in the first place." "No." Claire pulled back, meeting his eyes. "Derek did that. Nathan did that. Not you. You tried to help us. You tried to do something good." "Good?" Vincent laughed bitterly. "Look what my good almost cost you." Oliver stirred, waking. He saw Vincent, and despite everything, smiled. "Mr. Vince, you're okay." The boy ran to him, and Vincent dropped to one knee with a wince, catching Oliver in a careful hug. "I'm okay, buddy, and so are you." That's what matters. Oliver pulled back, looking at the blood on Vincent's shirt. With the solemn gravity of childhood, he pulled off the small napkin he'd been carrying in his pocket, the one from that first night at Bellanova's, which he'd kept as a treasure. "Here," Oliver said, pressing it into Vincent's hand. "You gave this to my mom. Now you need it." Vincent stared at the napkin, at the embroidered bee, and Claire watched this dangerous man's eyes fill with tears. "Thank you, Oliver," he whispered. "I'll keep it safe. I promise." That morning, Vincent made arrangements. Real ones this time, not just money or jobs, but actual protection. He made calls. He made deals. He called in favors from people Claire suspected were just as dangerous as him. "You're leaving the city," he told her. "New identities. Clean start. New names. New history. I have people who can do this, make you disappear completely. Safe." "What about you?" Claire asked. "I'll finish this. End it permanently. And then..." He looked at Oliver, at Claire, at the life he'd briefly touched. "And then I'll disappear too. Different path. It's time." "Vincent, it's the only way, Claire. As long as I'm connected to you, you're in danger. As long as my enemies know you matter to me, you're a target." His voice broke. "I can't watch someone else I care about die because of my choices. I can't. I won't." Claire wanted to argue, wanted to say there had to be another way. But she looked at her son, at Oliver's innocent face, and she knew Vincent was right. "Will we ever see you again?" she asked. Vincent touched her face gently, his scarred hand tender against her cheek. "I don't know. Maybe. In another life if we're lucky. And if we're not lucky, then know this. Meeting you and Oliver saved me. Reminded me I was human. Gave me a reason to try to be better." He kissed her forehead, the gesture achingly gentle. "Thank you for that. For seeing me as more than what I am. You're more than what you think you are, Vincent Castellano. You're a good man trying to survive a bad life. Maybe." He smiled sadly. "Or maybe I'm just a bad man who had one good night." He left an hour later. Claire watched his car disappear, Oliver's hand tight in hers, both of them crying for reasons a 7-year-old couldn't quite understand but felt in his heart. That afternoon, Robert drove them to a new location. A woman arrived with paperwork, new identification, a whole new life packaged in manila folders. Hannah Mitchell and her son Ethan, moving to Seattle to start fresh. "Vincent arranged everything," the woman explained. "You'll have a house, a job, a clean history. It's as safe as we can make it." "How do I thank him?" The woman smiled sadly. "You live well. That's what he wants. That's all he wants." The news broke 4 days later. Major gang violence in the city, multiple arrests, the dismantling of a significant crime organization. Names Claire recognized from overheard conversations. Photos that made her blood run cold. No mention of Vincent Castellano. No body. No arrest. Just silence where he used to be. Seattle was rainy and green and utterly foreign. The house was small but perfect, 2 bedrooms, a yard where Oliver could play. The job at the local library was quiet, peaceful, the kind of work where no one asked too many questions about your past. Claire tried to build a normal life. She enrolled Oliver in school under his new name. She made friends with other parents. She went to work, came home, cooked dinner, read bedtime stories. Normal. Safe. Boring in the most beautiful way. But at night she thought about him. Wondered if he was alive. Wondered if he'd found whatever peace he was searching for. Wondered if he ever thought about them. 7 months passed. Then a year. On the anniversary of that first rainy night, a package arrived at Claire's door. No return address. Inside, a newspaper clipping about a new nonprofit called Sarah's Kitchen, an organization that provided free meals, job training, and support services for struggling families. The article mentioned a generous anonymous donor who'd recently retired from business to focus on charitable work. Also in the package, Oliver's crayon drawing of the 3 stick figures, returned with a note in familiar handwriting. "Thank you for reminding me what it means to be human. You saved my life more than I saved yours. I hope Seattle treats you kindly. I hope Ethan grows up happy and safe and never hungry. And I hope someday, when enough time has passed, we can sit at a table together again. Until then, know that you gave me the greatest gift, a reason to be better. A friend." Claire cried reading it, relief and grief and hope tangled together. He was alive. He was trying. He was becoming the man she'd glimpsed beneath the armor. The years passed. Oliver Ethan now, though Claire sometimes slipped, grew tall and thoughtful and kind. He remembered Mr. Vince only in fragments, the way children remember dreams. Warm, safe, important somehow. Claire dated occasionally, but her heart stayed elsewhere, with a man she'd known for mere weeks but who'd changed everything. She checked the news from her old city obsessively at first, then less frequently, finally accepting that some stories end without closure. But on every anniversary of that rainy night, a package arrived. Sometimes books for Ethan, sometimes donations made in her name to local charities, sometimes just a note, "Hope you're well." A friend. She never wrote back. She didn't have an address to send to, but she kept every note, every gift, every proof that somewhere out there, Vincent Castellano was trying to earn his redemption. 6 years after that rainy night, she'd started thinking of herself as Claire again. Her real name, whispered in private moments, opened a small restaurant in Seattle called Oliver's Place. It wasn't fancy. Just a neighborhood place with good food, reasonable prices, and one special policy. Every night, one table was reserved for anyone who needed a meal but couldn't pay. No questions asked, no judgment given. Just food, warmth, and dignity. Ethan, now 13, helped sometimes after school, greeting customers with a smile that reminded Claire painfully of his father and of another man who'd shown them kindness when they had nothing. The restaurant became beloved in the neighborhood. People brought their families. First dates happened. Birthdays were celebrated. And every night, that one table fed someone who needed it. On Christmas Eve, the restaurant was packed. Snow fell outside, rare for Seattle, magical in its unexpectedness. Claire moved between tables, taking orders, refilling drinks, feeling something close to peace. The door opened, bringing cold air and the scent of winter. Claire turned automatically, her hostess' smile in place, and froze. The man in the doorway was older, grayer, wearing simple clothes that spoke of someone who no longer needed expensive suits to feel important. But she'd know those eyes anywhere. Brown, deep, carrying weight, but also something new. Something like hope. "Hello, Claire," Vincent said quietly. "I hope I'm not intruding." Her heart hammered so hard she thought everyone must hear it. "You're not. You're really here." "I am." He glanced around the restaurant, taking in the warm lights, the happy customers, the wall where Ethan had hung his artwork. His eyes found the reserved table in the corner currently occupied by an elderly man eating alone. "You built something beautiful. I learned from someone." Claire's voice shook. "Someone who showed me that kindness matters, even in the dark." Vincent's smile was different from what she remembered. Softer, more genuine, like he'd finally learned how. "Is Oliver here?" "In the back, doing homework. He goes by Ethan now, but..." She smiled through tears. "He'd want to see you." Before Claire could move, Ethan emerged from the kitchen, carrying a tray of water glasses. He saw the stranger, the way his mother stood frozen, and something flickered in his eyes, not quite memory, but recognition nonetheless. "Mom, you okay?" Claire looked at her son, then at Vincent, then at the life she'd built from the ashes of fear and hunger and impossible kindness. She made her decision. "Ethan, honey, come here. There's someone I'd like you to meet again." Vincent knelt as Ethan approached, bringing himself to the boy's eye level just as he had 6 years ago. "Hi, Ethan. My name's Vince. I knew you when you were little. You probably don't remember me." Ethan studied him with the seriousness of 13-year-olds. Then his eyes widened. "Wait, you're the spacebook guy. And the pasta. Mom, is this the friend who sent me books?" "Yes," Claire whispered, tears streaming now. "Yes, this is him." "That's awesome." Ethan grinned, then noticed Vincent's hands still scarred, but steadier now. "What happened to your hands?" "Old injuries. From a life I used to live." Vincent met the boy's eyes honestly. "I made a lot of mistakes, Ethan. Hurt people. Did things I'm not proud of. But your mom and you taught me that it's never too late to try to be better." Ethan processed this with adolescent's brutal honesty. "So you're like, reformed?" "I'm trying to be." Vincent pulled something from his pocket, a laminated crayon drawing of 3 stick figures around a table. "You gave me this once, told me I could keep it forever. It's been with me every day since, reminding me of who I want to be." Ethan looked at the drawing, recognition dawning. "I drew that. I was little. You were 7. And you saved my life with it." "How does a drawing save someone's life?" Vincent's voice went rough with emotion. "By reminding them that kindness is real, that some things matter more than power or fear, that 3 people around a table can change everything. Claire watched her son process this, watched Vincent wait patiently for judgment from a 13-year-old, and felt her heart crack open with something that might have been love or forgiveness, or simply recognition of 2 souls who'd found each other in darkness. "Well," Ethan said finally, in the practical tone of teenagers everywhere, "if you helped us when we needed it, you're basically family. Right, Mom?" Claire nodded, unable to speak. "So you should stay for Christmas dinner." Ethan looked at the crowded restaurant. "We can sit at the special table. That's the best one anyway." Vincent looked at Claire, a question in his eyes. She nodded again, and this time managed words. "Please stay." They sat at that corner table, the one reserved for those who needed it most, and ate dinner together. Vincent told stories about his work now, managing the foundation, helping families like they'd once been, trying to give back a fraction of what he'd taken. Ethan told him about school, about his dreams of studying marine biology, about the science project he was building. Normal, beautiful, everyday things. And Claire watched them both, these 2 people who'd somehow become her entire world, and felt something she hadn't felt in years, complete. Later, after the restaurant closed, after Ethan had gone upstairs to bed, Claire and Vincent stood in the empty dining room surrounded by the ghosts of Christmas dinners past. "I don't expect anything," Vincent said quietly. "I came because 6 years felt like long enough to prove I'd changed. I wanted you to know I made it, that the life you gave me a reason to want is real now. But if you need me to leave, don't." Claire crossed to him, taking his scarred hands in hers. "Don't leave. Not tonight. Not after 6 years of wondering. Claire, I know it's complicated. I know your past doesn't just disappear. But you're here, and you're trying, and that matters. That matters so much." Vincent pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "I don't deserve this. Deserve you. Maybe not. But maybe that's not how grace works." Claire smiled through tears. "Maybe we don't get what we deserve. Maybe we just get chances to be better than we were. And you took your chance, Vincent. You earned this." "I love you," he whispered. "I think I've loved you since that rainy night when you asked if your hungry son could stay a while. You were so fierce, so protective, so completely unaware of how brave you were. I love you too, even though it's crazy. Even though we barely know each other." "Then let's fix that." Vincent smiled, that new, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. "Let me take you to dinner tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Let me learn everything about you. Let me show you every part of who I'm becoming." "Yes." Claire kissed him softly. "Yes, to all of it." Upstairs, Ethan heard them talking and smiled into his pillow. He'd been right, Mr. Vince did need a friend, and now he had 2. On the wall of Oliver's place, amid the artwork and photos and memories, a new item appeared the next day. A framed napkin, white linen with an embroidered bee, and beneath it a small plaque that read, "No one should eat alone. Not in darkness. Not in hunger. Not in shame. Pull up a chair. You're a guest here. VC." And every single night after that, as long as the restaurant remained open, one table stayed reserved, not for the powerful or the famous or the wealthy, but for whoever needed it most. Because some lessons, once learned, change everything. Because kindness given returns multiplied. Because sometimes, on a rainy night when you have nothing left, a stranger extends their hand and the whole world shifts. And because 3 people around a table, a broken man, a frightened woman, and a hungry child can create something more powerful than fear, stronger than violence, and lasting enough to echo through years, they can create hope. And hope, it turns out, is the thing that saves us all.